So we are going to start today with the Romantics and the Transcendentalists. So go ahead and take out a blank sheet of paper. Give it today's date. Today is the 8th of February. And we're going to talk about the Romantics and the Transcendentalists. For everybody who's brand new, yeah, Joey? You doing a Word document? That's fine, I don't care. So for everybody who's brand new, I tape these lectures. So everything that you see up on this screen and my voice is being recorded. You guys aren't recorded as a class. And I will post it at the end of the day so that if, say, you miss class, you can go back and watch the lecture, do the warm-up, do the in-class activity, submit the work, get the points, but also take notes on the lecture, have the information. And also, if you have exams for any of your classes, your lectures are recorded, you can go back through, rewatch the lectures, and then, sort of review the information. So romantic life, it has nothing to do with mushy love stuff. It's more of an idea and a feeling. Most people, when they think romantic, they think, oh, it's all hearts and hugs and stuff. It's not. It has nothing to do with that. That's romance. It's different. So the Romantics believe that the rational mind is inferior to the intuitive, right? What it is you can feel, what it is you can interpret. Imagination, spontaneity, individual feelings, and nature are of greater value than reason and logic, right? Your imagination is superior to the logical part of your brain. And imagination can discover truths that reason cannot. Logic hems you in with rules and procedures, whereas imagination is so much bigger, it can encompass many more things that logic will not allow you to think about. Logic seeks to define things that already exist. Imagination seeks to create things that don't exist. It's much larger. When you're finished, just go ahead and put your pencil down so I know you're done. And just remember, if you don't get everything down or you feel like you missed something, you always have the option of going back and rewatching these lectures. Another thing Romanticism does, places a high importance on the individual, and I'll get to that in a second. Whereas the Puritans, did they place any importance on the individual?
So it's God. Oh.
No, right? It was all about collectivism. It was all about doing exactly what everybody else was doing because that's how you survive. So Romanticism itself was a reaction to the Industrial Revolution. Cities were a place of moral ambiguity. People would move to the cities and horrible things would happen to them. Right and wrong were not clearly defined. There was filth in the cities, moral corruption. And so because of this, everybody flocked to the cities because there were jobs, factories, and then they realized, oh wait, maybe the cities aren't as great as we thought they would be. So they looked back to the country. Okay, make sure you're writing it down. So they looked back to the countryside in a sort of, it's easy to romanticize what came before you. So they look back to the countryside and think, we need to go back there because, we feel it's morally straightforward. We know in the country, we know what is right and we know what is wrong. There's that sense of independence. People are healthy in the countryside, whereas, like, as we all know, part of, when the Industrial Revolution occurred and everybody started flocking to the cities, there weren't things like sewer systems or trash pickup, so everything was disgusting and filthy. People were living in horrible, horrible conditions. The majority of people, because very few people had money at this time. So most of the people in the city, were living in filth, having horrible, short little lives. And so it makes sense that as a reaction to this, people would say, no, wait, why are we here? Why are we fighting and striving in this city that's only making us, weaker and sicker, and more morally deprived? Let's go back to the country where we had better lives. Part of this is that idea of manifest destiny. And how many people have seen Far and Away? Has anyone ever seen this movie? It's fantastic. It's a really, really great example of sort of immigration to the United States. And what it works with is the Oklahoma land rush. And there was this, it's kind of a crazy idea now, but what they did is in order to get people to move west, because it was incredibly dangerous, but at the same time, you had the prospect of an entirely new life. So part of getting people to go there was they would give away free land. And they would have land rushes. In this particular movie, they talk about the Oklahoma land rush. And what it was huge parcels of land, and you raced for it. You just went out, and if you got it, you could defend it. It was yours. You didn't have to pay for it. And that's how they got people to go west, because it was a huge, huge risk. You still had Native Americans. It was unknown, unmapped territory. You didn't know what was going to happen to you. So as an incentive, they said, go west, and we will give you free land. But also, the West became, like the frontier of the imagination. This idea that if we go west, we can reinvent ourselves, we can reinvent our lives, and somehow it's all going to be better. And this is something that continues to this day in American culture, this idea of going west. Pardon? But, that's like California, it's the same sort of thing, but like California has this sort of, it becomes more of a golden beacon, if you will. Sunshine, warmth. It still draws people in the same way it did. Yeah.
I was going to say, a lot of people associate it with success as far as Hollywood, acting and music. A lot of people go there, and then a lot of people go to San Francisco for technology and stuff like that, since that's a big, Google's there and stuff like that.
Exactly. It still holds the same sort of draw, not only for people within the United States, but people all over the world. So, the romantic journey itself was away from town to city into the world, away from the town to city into the world of nature. Same with coming from, industrialized, populated East Coast, heading to the nature of the West Coast, the wild, wild West. People in these journeys, they're running from something, but they're always running to something as well. They're not running into the unknown. They've got a vision in their head of how their life will be. They've got a vision in their head of a better place. It's always some sort of idealized utopia. There's always that better place right over the horizon. And we see that again and again and again in stories. People always want to head out, head for the frontier, whatever that frontier is, because you can make the frontier anything. Like Tyler was saying, it can be California. Your frontier can be New York City. It's that idea that the grass is greener on the other side, or in this case, the grass is greener on the other side. So, part of this kind of literature is to have romantic heroes. And we'll get more into romantic heroes as we start reading more novels and looking at more literary movements, but romantic heroes, they've got youth or childlike qualities. They aren't necessarily children, but they do contain a childlike sort of innocence and perspective on their own life. They love nature and they distrust town. And part of distrusting town oftentimes is materialized as distrusting the values of their parents, distrusting the values of their generation or their parents' generation. They're generally not really good with women. Most romantic heroes, especially the stuff that we're going to read, they're going to be guys. They have a hard time with women. They might have had some relationships with women, but generally not, they've been unsuccessful. They like to engage in a quest for something higher learning, higher sense of life, higher ideals of existence. And a lot of this has to do with getting back to the natural world, because they've interpreted the natural world as a truer way to live, a better existence, a way to be pure, right? Or a way to get a greater connection with that higher power. Because it allows you to be right in nature. Nature being natural, derived directly from God, not a creation of mankind. It's more pure, less corrupted. Romantic values. Virtue is found in innocence, not sophistication. That childlike view of the world is a value over the view of the learned scholar. Eternal truths can be found in the wilderness, not in books. Like, you can go out into the world and you can experience things for yourself that are of more value than anything you will find in a book. Because it's that individual experience that is the most important to the transcendentalists and the romantics. It's not what you learn in books, it's what you feel with your body, see with your eyes, touch with your soul. You good, Lee? Alright. So, right, into the woods, what do you find? Well, they found transcendentalists. They found a truer way to live. They found a truer way to express themselves. Headed out to clean their heads, to empty their lives of all this extra junk, the stuff they didn't need. Because one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize is that with the Industrial Revolution came modern advertising. Billboards everywhere telling people what they should buy, who they should be, and this was something that never really existed before, and it was something that Emerson and Thoreau cautioned people against. They said, beware, watch out for those advertisers, watch out for them telling you how you should live your life, right? And even to this day, we're still surrounded by advertisements telling us who we should be, what we should find attractive, what our values should be. And they said, no, go out and find it yourself. So, transcendentalists are sort of the original American rebels. They believed in human perfectibility, and what came from them was individualism is more important than collectivism. Collectivism is this idea that we're all working for the same thing. As the Puritans were, they all banded together to raise up their societies, to fight back nature, to bring God into the savage lands. This is the first time that any single movement in America says, actually the individual is more important than the whole. And this is a value that we continue to embody in America. We always talk about American individualism. And I'll show you another example of it as we move forward. But it's something that never went away. And the crazy thing is, and I know that like now, as you move forward with your lives and you head off towards college or trade school or work, there's this idea that you can pick who you want to be, that you can develop yourself as an individual. Predating the transcendentalists, this didn't exist. Your parents selected your profession, or you went into the profession of your father, if you were a guy. If you were a girl, there was never any question of what you would do with your life. You would get married, and you would have babies, and you would keep house. That was it. Close the book. There was no question of you having any sort of internal, individual life. You had your parents' values, your parents' opinions. You went to your parents' church, and you did exactly what your mother did. You did exactly what your father did. And that was your life. It's one of the reasons that everybody wore the same clothes. I mean, it's just it didn't even occur to people really to express themselves through fashion, especially people of the lower order. If you had money and time, of course you could do these things. But before that, it was just like you wore the clothes of your class, and everybody pretty much dressed the same. Anyone have any questions? And they also believed in human perfectibility, which is something, they believed that if you keep striving and working and pushing towards a higher order, you too can rise up to that level. So we're going to take a look at, if you've already started the readings, which you should have, you should know a little bit about Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's the first transcendentalist. He wrote Nature, and he believed that truth is gained directly through nature and not indirectly through books and teachings of the past. He was a smart man, he was a learned man, but in his core being, he believed that the things that really mattered, you learned by going out into nature, by experiencing them. And his friend was Henry David Thoreau. And after having read what Emerson wrote, Thoreau went and spent 2 years in the woods in a cottage on Emerson's property to go out and live that life in nature, to experience nature, and subsequently he wrote Walden, which is a series of essays about his life in the woods. And some people will criticize Emerson for his life because he wasn't just like in the woods by himself. He generally walked into town every day and had lunch at Emerson's house. Thoreau did. But at the same time, it's like he went out, he lived in the woods, he had a little garden. You know, it's like he went out there to experience things and to remove himself from just sort of the mess that was society, the noise and complications of living around other people. Because he wanted to see what would come of it. And for him, what came of it was he wrote. He wrote the novel, he wrote the book Walden. As you guys head out of my room today, you'll notice that there's a poster to the right of the door, and it's an example of American Romantic paintings. And these paintings are huge. If you want to see some of them, they have them downtown Sacramento with the Frocker, and I'm talking like 15 feet across. They're massive because they want you to sort of understand the scope of the world that they're painting. Because how many people have ever been to Yosemite? Right? What does it feel like when you walk, you're in the valley, and you look up, right, like El Capitan, and it's huge, it's massive, it's overwhelming. And when people headed out into the American West, they were blown away, because they'd never seen anything so big. You know, England's not a very big place. Germany's not a very big place. The one thing that blows people away every single time is when they start heading out across America, just how big it is. Like how it takes, 15 hours to drive up and down California? I think it'll take you 4 or 5 to drive through England. You know what I mean? Like we're huge. And it just blew people away and inspired them to make these ginormous paintings. It's really quite something, yes.
Well, yeah, that's, or at least something that I noticed isn't just romanticism, though. Like, I noticed when we went to the Louvre that a lot of they weren't romanticism, but I don't even know what style they would be considered technically, but they were, I mean, they had some huge paintings there. Like, they took up walls.
Yeah.
Like, they were amazing.
Like that big picture of Napoleon, right? Yeah. So, why does it matter? Have a little video. Yes, Nate.
Why would a transcendentalist write a book about nature? I don't like books.
Well, they wanted to convey their ideas, and the best way to convey your ideas was 1, write a book, and 2, to go on the lecture circuit. And that's one thing that Emerson did. That's how he made a lot of money, because people didn't have radios, didn't have TVs. They read books. Books still weren't cheap, or they went to lectures. So,
America is still a land of rugged individualists. I was strong as I could be. Nothing ever got to me. And every one of them demands something different from their Chevy truck. But they all want the same thing. The most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road.
So it seems kind of silly, but that's where that comes from. Like, everybody's seen those Chevy commercials, because every single football season they roll out yet another Chevy commercial, and usually they try to use that song over and over and over again. And this is where it comes from. It comes from the Transcendentalists. And the thing is, it's like this idea of the American individual. That's where it came from. It's something unique to our culture. It's like, does anybody know anything about Japanese culture? No?
It depends. I mean, I don't know, like, all that much about it, but, like, compared to other cultures, like,
Yeah, well, it's like, I know a little bit, just enough to find it fascinating and interesting, but one of the things, they have this collective identity. They think about other people before themselves. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to Japan, you'll notice that people are incredibly polite. They think about the environments they're in. Like, for example, before a child would climb on the seat in a train, the mother would probably put down a towel and remove the child's shoes, because they wouldn't want that child to make a mess on the seat because someone else might be sitting on that. If the child put their handprints on the window, they would clean off those handprints after the child had finished. We don't really do that here. It's like we've all been on public transportation. It's a nightmare. It's a mess. It's gross. But it's because we're more inwardly focused. It's just a part of our culture. It's very much about the self. I. It's you against the world, the rugged individualist. And that's where it comes from. So let me get the price. I'm going to hand out an excerpt from Thoreau's Walden. And with your partner, or your threesome, you're going to You're going to put a box around any words you are unfamiliar with, or words that perhaps maybe you're not sure of the definition. And then either together or individually, look those words up. And then you are going to write a brief, reflective paragraph. It shouldn't take you more than 20 minutes at the most. Okay? So I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately. Confront only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to root out all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms, and, if proven to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it, and publish its meanness to the world. And he's not talking meanness like feelings, like you're so mean to me, so make sure you look that up and check a secondary definition. Or if it were sublime, to know it by experience, and be able to give a true account of it in my next excursion. For most men, it appears to me, are in a strange uncertainty about it, whether it is of the devil or of God, and have somewhat hastily concluded that it is the chief end of man here to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So, reread the passage yourself. I recommend reading it several times. Box the words you do not know and look them up, and 2, write a reflection paragraph. Do you think Thoreau's ideas are good? Do you think they are bad? Please make connections in your own life, and please use examples from the text, and your response should be no shorter than 5 sentences. So, read it a couple of times, check the words you're unsure of. Dictionaries are over here. Look for secondary meanings. Yeah, Jackson.
Should we write the paragraph on the back of it?
Yeah, put it on the back, that way it's on sheet.
It's just been fun for the community.
The actual dictionary. 22 seconds. Fiddle with the technology. So, we have about 25 more minutes. We're going to start watching something called The Ballad of Thoreau. It's a little cheesy, but it's good. So,
Did you read those songs?
no, actually, he didn't. It's a play.
Oh, good.
And it's a film version of the play. So,
Yeah.
to get you thinking and considering,
This kind of binding for reads.
yeah. You're going to fill out this KWL chart. The K is what you know at this point about Thoreau. You know a fair amount. So write down everything. I don't need complete sentences. Bullet points are awesome. Alright. Do you have any questions thus far? Is there anything that you want to write that down in the middle? We know that Thoreau was a friend of Emerson. We know that he spent 2 years in the woods. We know that he wrote Walden. We know that he was a transcendentalist. We know that he wanted people to think differently. You know, what would you like to learn about it? There's got to be at least one question rolling around in your brain. Maybe you want to know what else did he write? Or maybe, did he get married? Did he have children? Did he have any other friends? Were there any other transcendentalists? Now take a few minutes with that and I'll get the video queued up.